Yo, what's up, guys? Why Not Be Reckless, aka Why Not Be Casting, one of the HCS commentators, analysts, and grassroots content creators. And today we have another HCS report where we're going to be breaking down pool play and perfectly predicting what's going down in the pool play. We'll be deep diving into some of the stats from the recent scrims and tournament results and all of that good stuff. And obviously on top of that, also talking about what previously happened the last time we saw these teams on LAN. And we'll be predicting this with my perfect handwriting on this beautiful graphic that was made by my man Siege. Siege has been working with us with helping with some of the graphics and thumbnails going with the YouTube, and he also made this for us as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Hey, don't forget, over 50% of y'all haven't subscribed to the channel just yet. Please help your boy out. Hit a subscribe, comment down below. We're giving away $1 to one lucky subscriber that comments. So help that algorithm push out to more people that might enjoy this content. But guys, Dallas, your HCS Open at Dreamhack is right around the corner, and we got to find out who's winning. I mean, like literally this weekend, we're watching the best teams in the world duke it out. Don't forget about that open bracket as well. We always have that open bracket feeding into the pro bracket or into the pool play, eventually making it into the pro bracket. That's going to be real fun. Why don't we predict again what's going to go down? We'll start off in Pool A, where you have Optical Gaming right off of a win in their house in Arlington. And although we will be in Dallas, this will be at a bit of a different venue, so maybe no home field advantage for Optic Gaming's Bound, Formal, Legend, and Renegade. You also in that same pool have TSM as your number 8 seed, Druck, Soul Snipe, Talik, and Manny coming in as the, I don't know if we can call him the newest member because he's been a part of this crew for so long, but Manny was on Cloud9 to start off this season. Fantastic job on Cloud9, might I say, and eventually finds himself on TSM, back with his best friends and bringing that old Native Red or Funk 4 KCP roster back from season 1. Gen.G, Breaking Shot, Common, King Nick, and YNOT didn't really start off all that hot, ultimately going into Arlington, but at Arlington, I think played well. I think played decent. They got a big win on Complexity, who was seemingly on an upward trend when they beat the number 5 seed Luminosity in pool play. I think Gen.G got a great win on them. They definitely popped off on them, especially because Breaking Shot was dropped from that roster. And obviously, we all know YNOT and Spartan have a bit of a history. Even King Nick and Spartan have a bit of a history as well. So Pool A is going to be really fun to watch, but also hard to predict. So at Arlington, talk about the fact that Gen.G did finish top 8. TSM did finish in top 12, and obviously Optic Gaming won the freaking tournament. We'll talk about each and every one of their journeys reaching into, or I guess into the bracket. So Optic, if you don't remember, they did lose to Team Nemesis in pool play and showed us that even the God Squad could bleed. Team Nemesis beating them out took 2 days to do, by the way. So we're up 2-0 in that series, and then a blackout happens that causes the whole tournament to get delayed. Team Nemesis pick up exactly where they left off against Optic Gaming, eventually come out with a huge win over them. I think it was 3-1 the final scoreline was for that one, but Optic Gaming showing that they could lose matches even in pool play. They could get upset. What is this freaking... What the ad? This ad takes up most of my screen. But Optic Gaming did lose to Team Nemesis again, showing that they could lose and get upset in earlier pool play. Now I will say, Gen.G did have an opportunity to beat Optic in this very pool play, in this very tournament on LAN, and weren't able to pull that off. So Optic obviously showing that they can beat Gen.G, which I don't think anybody's really all that surprised about. Gen.G are good. Optic are on a whole nother level right now, but anybody's beatable. Meanwhile, Gen.G obviously going to losing to Optic. TSM losing out to Zero Tenacity and FaZe. Not really surprised that they lost at the FaZe, although I think that matchup was winnable for them. Surprised they lost to Zero Tenacity. TSM had a rough time leading up into Arlington, and even Arlington wasn't all that kind to them, specifically in pool play here, where they come out as the number 3 seed, but they do advance forward into bracket play. Optic obviously lose out to Shopify Rebellion in that round 1 matchup. They only matched up against them because they came out number 2 in pools, and Shopify came out number 1 in pools. Optic get knocked down to the lower bracket, but then proceed to have one of the most incredible lower bracket runs that we ultimately have seen. Not only did they beat Gen.G, who were in their very pool, but in that round 1 lower bracket, they beat TSM, went on to beat Team Nemesis, went on to all the way down to that lower bracket finals to beat FaZe, and eventually won the freaking tournament. Eventually, they were your champions, beating Shopify Rebellion out in 2 best-of-7 series. McDonald's. In 2 best-of-7 series to become your champions. That brings us back into where we're at right now. And that tells me that I think Optic have already beaten TSM. I think they've already beaten Gen.G. As far as scrim-wise, if we want to go in as far as scrims, we can look at Optic Gaming and their record. I just think 16-0-1-0 Tenacity, 13-3 on Complexity, a big 10-3 on Shopify, 13-0 Cloud9. The only thing that makes you kind of waver a bit is splitting with Envy, but everything else looks so good unless your name is Shopify Rebellion. So if I'm going pool play, I'm saying Optic come out 3-0. I think they beat TSM. I think they beat Gen.G. They've already done so on LAN. They already look even better going into this LAN than they did literally going into Arlington. Nothing is telling me that somebody's going to come out and upset them, although I'm not going to put money on it because, hey, TSM are good, Gen.G are good. I think they even beat whoever comes out of open as well. What the matchup that I'm looking for is watching TSM versus Gen.G. I think that's the matchup that we should be keeping our eyes out on, because I really think that that's winnable for either one of those squads. Looking at TSM specifically, they got 12-3 by FaZe, not the end of the world. 3-0'd by Envy, but keep in mind that was a Forge Hub tournament, so I'm not sure exactly how much you're going to take from a Forge Hub tournament, maps that ultimately both of these teams aren't familiar with, so I'm not really going to extrapolate too much from that. 11-4 over Cloud9. That's a big win for TSM. 9-6 over Space Station Gaming. That's a big win over Space Station Gaming. So, obviously I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, really tough to see them losing out to FaZe like that. But then keep in mind, the week before, they 9-6'd FaZe. So obviously, if you take this series out of the mix, which literally just happened yesterday, you're looking at TSM, you're like, bro, they're starting to figure it out. 6-5 versus Ether, okay. Don't like that too much. Ether Gaming are better than people think, though. Another win over FaZe, like in scrims. So if you're looking at like the overall last couple of weeks here for TSM, you're looking at like, hey, it ain't that bad. It ain't that bad at all. Meanwhile, Gen.G losing 11-2 to Complexity. Complexity have gotten better, but the Complexity at Arlington was average. The Complexity leading up to Arlington was definitely below average. They did get a win over Cloud9, which I think is good. A 4-3 over Omit, not bad. I think TSM are a little bit better than Omit right now, though. They also split the difference with Ether Gaming. Shout out Ether Gaming, showing that they can compete with some of the best teams in North America. Love that. Ether Gaming also 10-0'd them, literally the day before. Wow. Omit also 10-7'd them the week before this scrim, so that's pretty impressive. I think from what I'm seeing here, TSM are on a slightly more upward trend based on their online performances, and even on LAN, it was only one placing between them, top 8 and top 12, one round between them. And mind you, TSM also ran, they also ran into Optic round 1. You know what I'm saying? Like, Gen.G went to war with Complexity round 1. I'm sure TSM would have loved to play Complexity round 1. So I'm looking at the recent results, And I'm gonna say that TSM look a bit better than Gen.G so far. So I say that TSM come out of this 2-1. I think they beat Gen.G. I also think they beat the open bracket team. Meanwhile, I think Gen.G will also go to war with TSM, take it to a game 5. I think this is gonna be an amazing matchup to watch, must-see TV type of stuff. But I also think they beat out the open bracket team and they end up in the lower bracket of bracket play, and that's my prediction for Pool A. Optic on top, they've been looking great. TSM have been looking much better here with Manny, and I was harsh on them going into Arlington. Be a little more kind here. Gen.G, although I think they were good in Arlington, or at least better than I expected. They weren't bad at Arlington. I think they come out 1-2 here in pool play, and that brings us into Pool B. What's up, Big Redder? Pool B, you got Shopify Rebellion, Cycle, Frosty, Last Shot, and Royal 2. This squad looked like they were going to go the freaking distance and take your tournament. Before Arlington, they looked like the best team in the world. At Arlington pool play, they looked like the best team in the world. In your winners bracket, they looked like the best team in the world. In the lower bracket is where Optic hit another freaking gear and came out and went on again the craziest lower bracket run that we saw, but ultimately running into Shopify Rebellion and beating them in that grand finals. Again, Shopify Rebellion finished out in second place. Actually, we'll go over all the teams real quick. Team Nemesis, Glory, SOG, Snipe Drone, and Woo-Tom. Nemesis, obviously incredible at Arlington. We'll talk about them a little bit more. Meanwhile, Omit, Ezo, Husk, Collect, and Mortally. An entirely new squad that I don't even know how we based their performance off of Arlington when all of these squads were. I mean, you have Ezo and Collect who were playing on the Infamous, Mortally who was playing on the Luminosity, and Husk who was playing on the Complexity. You have literally 3 different squads smashed into one. It's going to be hard for us to base their performances at Arlington when it's a new team, but we will focus on Shopify Rebellion and Nemesis at Arlington. Obviously, Shopify Rebellion come out in second place in pool play. Get the fuck out of here. In pool play, they beat out a very good Cloud9 roster who got even better deep in that tournament. They beat out Infamous, which is half of this roster that we're talking about in the form of Collect, and Ezo are Infamous, so a big win on Shopify. They'll feel confident going up against at least 2 of those members here. Shopify Rebellion, again, fantastic in pool play, only dropping 1 map total. I mean, you got to give them respect of pool play. Meanwhile, Team Nemesis, we talked about it not too long ago. They beat out they beat out Gen.G, but most importantly, they beat out Optic Gaming, who eventually ended up winning this tournament. Only 2 teams can say they beat Optic at Arlington, one of them being Shopify, but the other being Team Nemesis. And now both of those teams end up in the same pool with each other, and maybe Team Nemesis come out with another huge win against one of the favorites. You beat Optic, so you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, if we can beat Optic, who's to say we can't beat freaking Shopify Rebellion? Why not? Why my thing disappeared? Sorry about that. It's winnable in the sense if you're Nemesis, because Nemesis showed that they could beat anybody in the league. Shopify Rebellion beat out Optic, beat out SSG, beat out FaZe in the winners bracket, only lost to Arlington in the grand finals. Like I said before, they look like the best team in pool play and the best team in the winners bracket of Arlington. In the lower bracket, I guess we'll talk about Team Nemesis in the higher bracket. They did 3-1 Cloud9, ultimately losing 3-0 to FaZe, which is a bit surprising based on the trajectory that they were going in. But when dropping down into the lower bracket, we saw Team Nemesis go up against maybe their arch rivals in Optic Gaming and took them to a game 5 this time, looking like maybe they could pull off the win, but Optic do eventually get their revenge. Still, not bad for Team Nemesis. The only teams you can say that beat you are FaZe and Optic Gaming. That's it. Everybody else fell short when running into this red hot Team Nemesis roster. I believe they're going to come into to Dallas and really look to kind of pick up exactly where they left off. They want to prove to everybody that Arlington was not just a fluke. They're the real deal. So, when going over scrims, it's going to be a little bit tough. I don't think Team Nemesis are boot camping this time around, which may hurt them a little bit. But I don't think they're boot camping this time around. That is not Team Nemesis. Hey, there we go. There's Nemesis Esports. Sorry about that. So yeah, they're still out in Europe, so they're only playing against some of the top teams in Europe, where we can kind of talk a little bit about Shopify Rebellion and maybe even omit a little bit and how they've looked so far. So Shopify Rebellion. Shopify Rebellion, 15-1 over Ether Gaming, 12-1 over Zero Tenacity. They did ultimately lose the Optic game. We talked about this. Big win for Optic, because outside of that, Shopify Rebellion was starting to look almost as unstoppable as they did ultimately going into Arlington. Shopify Rebellion, 13-3 over SSG, 11-3 over Complexity, 15-1 over SSG. Based on the results of scrims and just their demeanor and how they look, it doesn't look like Shopify Rebellion are going to get shaken up in pool play. They look determined. They look like they're ready to go the distance. They look like they're ready to win Dallas, which it felt like they would. I mean, it felt like they should have won Arlington if you take that crazy lower bracket run by Optic out of it. Shopify Rebellion look locked in. I think they finished 3-0. I don't see. I think if Shopify Rebellion would have won Arlington and then came into scrims lackadaisical, kind of fooling around, maybe trolling a bit, maybe there's a chance to get shaken up in pool play. But I think that loss in Arlington maybe locked them in even further. And I think they're going to come in looking great. Meanwhile, bring up another tab here. We can look up all three teams. Data Hive. What? Meanwhile, we'll look up. Where's Omit? By the way, welcome Omit to Halo, by the way. So, Omit, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. They end up losing 12-3 to Envy. Envy have been just this squad that seemingly come out of nowhere and has been super successful. Loving what Envy has brought to the table. They lost to Zero Tenacity, 7-2. So 2 tough losses there. So, I mean, brought Gen.G the distance. I think it's actually decent against Gen.G. Cloud9 beat them out, but taking 6 games off of Cloud9 is pretty good to me. Losing out to Envy. So a lot of losses that are starting to stack up. I like this win against Gen.G here, 10-7, but nothing else is kind of jumping out to the screen to me that tells me that I'll believe that Omit will be able to upset Shopify Rebellion. And to be honest with you, with the way Team Nemesis look on LAN and the way they have looked, I don't think you beat Team Nemesis. I think Tony. I think Team Nemesis are the real deal. They're a real threat to make it into the top 4, and I think Omit should worry more. I mean, obviously, in the moment, you're worried about Shopify Rebellion, you're worried about Team Nemesis, but whoever comes out of that open bracket, especially like an Ether Gaming, for example, if they make it into here, you got to worry about whoever the hell comes out of open bracket, because that team is going to be hungry. And there's a chance that not only do Omit not make it into the winners bracket of pro play, but they better be careful. They better come in locked with whoever comes out of open bracket, because if you don't play your cards right, there's a chance you don't even make it out of pool play with how good these open bracket teams have been getting. But that's my prediction for Pool B. And now we move on to Pool C. Graphic here first. Pool C, we got FaZe, as HS Pro Talk will say. Falcated, Penguin, Suppressed, and Trippy. Cloud9, Boo Boo Dubu, Lethal, Sab, and Septify. There was a team change here, bringing in Lethal in place of Manny, who left to go to TSM. Zero Tenacity, Jimbo, Mighty, Sika, and Chick. Right off the rip, we're going to talk about each and every one of their placings. FaZe, 3rd place. Obviously not bad. We'll talk about their road a little bit. FaZe did run into Zero Tenacity on LAN, did end up beating them with a perfect map count, not only 3-0ing Zero Tenacity, but 3-0ing everybody in their pool. They came out of pool play as the only team that was undefeated, did FaZe Clan, on the way to bracket play. 3-0 Complexity, 3-0 Team Nemesis. Not only did they come out of pool play with a perfect record, but ultimately went into the winners bracket finals with that perfect record. But then Shopify Rebellion sent them down to the lower bracket, where they proceeded to get 3-1 by Optic Gaming and ultimately knocked out in that 3rd place. FaZe, I think, were amazing at Arlington. They were already good going into Arlington, but they were just incredible at Arlington, where for example, we'll take Cloud9, for example. I think also were very good. Cloud9, who again did make a team change, finish out top 6. 1 game away from ultimately taking SSG spot in Championship Sunday and in the top 4. That was really fun to watch. And actually, I even got the chance to cast that a little bit, which was awesome. Cloud9 in pool play, lost out to Shopify Rebellion, beat Infamous and Dark Inside. I wouldn't say I'm really surprised by that. I mean, I feel like that's kind of like just went the way it was supposed to. Something flies into my eye. I have no idea what the hell that was. In bracket play, losing out 3-1 to Team Nemesis. Team Nemesis were the hottest. Like if you're looking for a dark horse squad, it was definitely Team Nemesis. Again, something in my eye. Sorry about that, guys. Can't even see right now. Team Nemesis were that good. Really, I mean, I'm really not even surprised by this result here, with just how good Team Nemesis were playing. Cloud9 drop into the lower bracket, 3-2 Ether Gaming. Ether taking them to a game 5, just showing once again how good Ether Gaming are. Watch out for them if they're participating in the open bracket. Cloud9 3-1 over Gen.G. I liked Gen.G. I really liked Cloud9. And then as we said, taking SSG to a game 5, being 1 game away from ultimately taking their spot into the Championship Sunday. Ultimately, SSG come out with the win, and Cloud9 get knocked out in top 6. Fantastic job by Cloud9. They still end up making a team change, which, I mean, normally I would worry after the results that we've seen after being so positive, but I'm a huge fan of Lethal, and I think his playstyle really complements the rest of this Cloud9 roster. And where Zero Tenacity, not a bad performance at Arlington if you ask me. I thought better than expected. Top 12 may not seem like anything to write home about, but when you go into the fact that they had to go against a TSM who are experienced and who can beat out almost anybody in the league and end up coming out with that win in pool play, when they dropped down the lower bracket, you ran into SSG in round number 1. It's a tough matchup for anybody. SSG were projected at the beginning of the season, or before the season started, to be top 2 in the entire world. Dropping down to the lower bracket, they end up running into a Infamous roster. You take them to a game 5. You truly tested them. But Lethal and the crew, who now is on this Cloud9 roster, did come out with that win and knocked you out in lower bracket round number 1. Again, keep in mind, Lethal's now on this Cloud9 roster. We'll look at the results here for FaZe, Cloud9, and Zero Tenacity. So let's see. FaZe, filter, Cloud9, filter, and finally Zero Tenacity. Again, it's gonna be tough because Zero Tenacity. I'm sorry, I was gonna say it's gonna be tough because Nemesis isn't a boot camping, but Zero Tenacity is here and boot camping. To my knowledge, I believe they're already here and already getting some incredible reps right now. Are Zero Tenacity? That's why you're seeing a lot of matchups against North American rosters. It's Zero Tenacity's turn to come in. So let's start off with talking about FaZe Clan. 12-3 over TSM. Good win. 11-2 in favor of Envy. What the hell happened there? And I'm telling you guys, Envy have come out of nowhere, but man, have they made their presence known. 7-6 over Complexity. Although it is a win in favor of FaZe, it still is one that Complexity really tested them in that. And for a team that you expect to be top 3, top 4, I don't want Complexity winning 6 games in scrims, in my opinion. I think 10-7 over SSG is a good scrim. Losing out against TSM, I want to see them beat TSM. Losing out 11-3 against SSG, I want to see them beat SSG. One thing I'm noticing here over the last couple of weeks is we're seeing very much an up and down. We're seeing them win against teams that maybe they shouldn't, or maybe they shouldn't. We're also seeing them lose against teams that also maybe they shouldn't. So very up and down here for FaZe, and it's crazy because I keep talking about this roster. I keep talking about, Falcon, Penguin, Suppressed, and Trippy being that underrated squad. I know they can beat anybody in the league, but in that same breath, I can also say that they can be beaten by anybody as well. I like FaZe against Optic. I like FaZe against Shopify Rebellion. I like FaZe against SSG. I'm not gonna bet money on them winning against those top squads, but I like their roster against them. Still, I think they can be beaten there. I think they're a beatable roster. Where Cloud9 losing out to Gen.G, don't want to see that. Losing out 4-11 at TSM, definitely don't want to see that. Even the 8-6 against Omit, I feel like I would like to see Cloud9 look a little bit more dominant. So far, Cloud9 over the last couple of weeks, not good. Be honest with you. For a squad that we want to see test and maybe be like a dark horse squad to make it to top 4, this is not the Cloud9 we want to see. This is if honestly, coming into this video, if I was going to pick an upset from a number 2 to a number 1 seed, I would have looked at this Cloud9 FaZe matchup and said, hey, there's a very good chance we could see that upset that ultimately people want to see. But looking at these last few scrim results, I can't say the same. I can't say that I'm in love with this. Keep in mind, obviously, LAN is a different beast. So maybe we see a different Cloud9. Maybe they just play better on LAN. There's plenty of teams that do. Meanwhile, Zero Tenacity, while boot camping, got 16-0'd by Optic. So many teams. 7-2 over Omit. That's a good win for them. 12-1 by Shopify Rebellion. Again, everybody's in 12-1 by them. 10-2 by Envy. May not look like the greatest matchup, but I think people are starting to see how good this Envy roster is. Came out of nowhere, but taken over as one of the dark horse squads. 10-0 over BH3, 12-0 over, or I guess 0-12 by Team Nemesis. This must be when they were still back over in Europe. So bootcamp hasn't been the most kind to them, but I think valuable practice. I think beating out Omid is great. Am I ready to say that they're going to beat out a Cloud9 or a FaZe? Absolutely not. I think it's valuable that they're here. I think it's great, but I don't think they beat out FaZe, so I have FaZe as 3-0. I don't think Cloud9 beat out FaZe based on those scrim results, although they can get a huge land buff, so I'm having Cloud9 as 10-1 because I think Cloud9 will beat Zero Tenacity in Pool C, in my opinion. I didn't see enough from Zero Tenacity in this boot camp. I'm not in love with what Cloud9 have put on. If Cloud9 came in and had like a great scrim performance over the last 2 weeks, I honestly maybe would have picked them to upset FaZe. Maybe not, but maybe I would have. I haven't seen enough from them. I think FaZe have been up and down, but they've had some really good ups. Like I feel like, like what is it? 10-7 over SSG. It's a really good up. 12 over TSM. I think it's a good win for them. I think there's some good wins in here. 12-2 over Cloud9, which is again going to be a matchup in that pool play. That's something to pay attention to. Even though it's up and down, I've liked their ups. Meanwhile, we'll go into Pool D. Give them the D. That didn't come out right. Pool D, given the Pool D, SSG, Envy, Complexity. You have Eco, Lucid, Snakebite, and Stellar, a roster made up of multiple world champions. Envy, Descendant, Piggy, Precision, and Action Yaxon. This is the squad that everybody needs to be talking about and everybody needs to fear. Meanwhile, Complexity made a huge change. We're kind of flying under the radar here. Half their team changed. You have Sparring and Mental still here, but then you have Cherished and Advocacy. Cherished from TSM previously, and Advocacy from Luminosity. It's going to be hard to gauge Complexity when half of the roster has changed. And again, you have another mix-up similar to Omit, where you have 3 rosters just kind of slammed in together to make this new look Complexity roster, but we'll see what we can do here. Space Station Gaming, obviously finishing out in 4th place, top 4. Would you like to see them get 3rd place? Sure. Did many people have them, making it to grand finals? Maybe some did, but I don't think anybody was betting money on it based on how good Optic and Shopify Rebellion have looked almost this entire time. Going down into the pool plays, SSG beat out Complexity. Not surprised by that. They run into Complexity again, but I also want to mention this is a brand new roster, so it's going to be tough to gauge that on the old win because you just have half the roster, which has changed. They did beat out Zero Tenacity, but then got 3-0'd by Shopify Rebellion. Maybe would have liked that to be a 3-1 or a 3-2, but again, at that point, we're just being a little bit nitpicky here. When dropping down into lower bracket, they beat out Cloud9. That was a war of a matchup, but in Championship Sunday, they weren't able to get a single win because they ultimately ran into Optic Gaming, who eventually won this entire tournament. 4th place for SSG may not seem the greatest when looking at the LAN results. Maybe you want them to get 3rd place. Maybe you also want them into a grand finals. But to sit here and say that in pool play, or even I guess in total, the whole tournament, you only lost to Shopify Rebellion and Optic Gaming? Not bad if you ask me. Like that's 2 teams that ultimately were supposed to beat you. It's not like they lost to Cloud9, for example. Not like they lost to anybody else. You lost to Shopify and Optic. Not the end of the world. Meanwhile, we have Envy and Complexity, who 2 teams that ultimately you really can't gauge off of based on Arlington. What do we have? We have Yaxon and Piggy, who are on Luminosity. Obviously, they were disappointment. Precision, who was on this Complexity roster. That's going to be really fun to watch, by the way. And Descendant, who was on Infamous. Talking about Envy and Complexity, I'm not even going to base this on Arlington because, again, you have just way too many different teams. Why don't we focus more on what these teams have been able to do in the last couple of weeks than we do Arlington, because again, they're entirely different. Shopify Rebellion. Space Station Gaming, not Shopify. Excuse me, sorry. Space Station Gaming splitting the difference with Ether Gaming just a few days ago. I think this says more about Ether Gaming than it does SSG. Fantastic out of Ether Gaming. That is, taking 9 of 18 against SSG again. I've been saying it time and time again. People are sleeping on Ether Gaming. They're going to come out of open bracket. They're going to look fantastic. #1 team in Latin America for a reason. Tapping Buns is back in Latin America, and he's just been fantastic. Watch out for Ether freaking Gaming. While SSG losing out 3-13 against Shopify. Would love that scrim to be a little bit closer, but Shopify have been looking locked in during online scrims. FaZe 10-7 over SSG. Not what you want to see for SSG, but at least it's not like a dominant win there. TSM beating out SSG in scrims. We've been talking about that. Not what you want to see. Shopify Rebellion with a dominant performance here. They're locked. I do like this win, 11-3 against FaZe Clan. I actually really, really do like that win from SSG. Like the 12-5 over Cloud9 as well. But kind of like FaZe, up and downs, nothing too alarming. Maybe you could say they need to beat Ether Gaming decisively for you guys to be in love with them. but to me, nothing crazy too alarming, but nothing really to write home about for Space Station Gaming. Meanwhile, Envy, who I've been just chatting up, man. I've been hyping them up. Some might say glazing. Well, if I'm glazing, call me a Krispy Kreme factory because I like Envy. 12-3 over Omid, 10-2 over Zero Tenacity, 11-2 over FaZe Clan, which I will remind you finished in 3rd place, literally Arlington. 8-4 over Omid, 12-0 over Dead Inside. You go toe-to-toe with Optical Gaming just 10 days ago, and you come out taking 7-14. Like, are we kidding? How do you look at this and you're not impressed by that? I mean, Envy came in out of nowhere, won the qualifier. Some people called it a fluke, and then it came out and proceeded to dominate since then. Envy are damn good. The only, I guess, caveat to that, the only thing I will say the but in that is, will you be able to do it on LAN? Piggy and Jackson were a part of that Luminosity roster that finished 5th seed just like Envy. They didn't get a series win. Like, you came as the number 5 seed and then proceeded to not even beat the team out of open bracket. That's abysmal. Precision did not look like himself on Complexity. The Precision that we saw in Complexity did not look comfortable. Maybe he is more comfortable on this roster. I mean, it's a different roster. It's a brand new look. I'm not going to take that again, take anything against them for that. It's a new roster. And Descended, who I thought was fantastic on Infamous, you now pair him with Precision. If Precision looks like he did in previous seasons or even in the online tournaments this season so far, and Descended keeps doing what Descended is doing, Envy popping off, man. I mean, come on. Envy can pop off. We'll see what happens here. I will say again, I really am a believer in this Envy roster, but we gotta see them do it on LAN. Gotta see them do it on LAN. Meanwhile, Complexity, I'm very interested to see how Complexity have been looking. Complexity, 11-2 over Gen.G. Very good considering Gen.G wiped the floor with them at Arlington. Taking 3 of 16 over Optic. Okay, I'm not going to write home about that, but 7-0 over Dead Inside. Going toe-to-toe with FaZe. I like that scrim for Complexity right there. Obviously, you lost the scrim, but being able to take 6 of 13, love that. Math on the fly, by the way. 3-11 over Shopify. I mean, not the end of the world, but I mean, you're losing to the teams you're supposed to. You're beating teams you're supposed to, and you even have some, some good matchups against a top 3 team from Arlington, like that of Complexity. I like Complexity a lot, and honestly, you put this Complexity roster in any other pool, like put this Complexity roster against TSM, and maybe I have Complexity beating out TSM. Maybe. Put this Complexity against a struggling Cloud9 in Pool C, and maybe I have Complexity beating out Cloud9. The only reason I don't have Complexity usurping the number 2 seed is because right now Pool D has probably my second place pool seed in pools outside of Nemesis. I like Envy, and honestly, I mean, as far as like bias-wise, I like Envy a little bit more than Nemesis because they're just new, they're fresh, they're out of nowhere. The storyline is somehow even better than a team coming out of Europe as the number 1 squad. Like, nobody had this team on their radar. Nobody even knew they were coming together. The players didn't even know. Precision was supposed to be on Omit at some point. And so, like, it came out of nowhere. I think that's actually just really cool. So when it comes to scrims, I mean, when it comes to, I guess, my prediction, can they beat Space Station Gaming? Hell yeah. I will say, I said it multiple times. SSG don't look elite right now. I will say SSG can beat FaZe. They can beat Shopify. They can beat Optic. But the same way we talk about FaZe, how they are beatable, Envy can beat SSG. I don't think that's a like if it's a best of 5 series, I think Envy take them to a game 5. I'm not ready to put that on a prediction, I don't think SSG were that bad in scrims. Even though granted it was up and down. I want to see Envy more on LAN as well. I really want to see Envy more on LAN. But again, I will say I like Envy a lot. I think they're great, and I think if they perform even like 80% as they've done online that they do on LAN, this team is one of the tough ones to beat. If you're looking for squads that have a chance of upsetting the quote unquote big four and getting to a top 4 spot, you got to look at Nemesis. I would normally say you got to look at Cloud9, but I have not liked their scrum results recently. I think you look at Nemesis and Envy more than you look at anybody else in the league in order to upset and make a deep run into the top 4. I think that's your best chances if you're looking for a dark horse squad. That's a little bit of free intel for you. And ladies and gentlemen, that's your pool play. I mean, it sucks because I don't have a single upset on here. But I will say, I think where the upsets will come is, can Obit survive whoever comes out of open bracket? Same thing as Zero Tenacity. How will Complexity look on LAN? Like I think where the upsets will come is whoever comes out of open bracket, because open bracket is tough, man. Dude, you have some good squads coming out. And although I didn't predict an upset, if you told me Cloud9 upset FaZe, I'm like, oh yeah, I believe it. Absolutely. Cloud9 were amazing Arlington on LAN, and now you have lethal. If you told me Envy upset at SSG, again, I would not be surprised whatsoever. Team Nemesis already beat Optic. Could they beat Shopify Rebellion? They can. Like, I feel like there's upset potential here, just not in the way that I wanted to, just not in the realm that I wanted to predict. That's the only issue here. But until next time, I'll catch you guys later. That's your HCS report. Don't forget to subscribe. Over 50% of you aren't subscribed to the channel just yet, but you are watching every single day, which is crazy to me. Don't forget, we're giving away big money. We're giving away $1 to one lucky subscriber that comments down below, so that's even more of an incentive to interact with the video and push it to the algorithm to try to push it to more people that might enjoy this type of content. I'll catch y'all later.